Welcome back to the Pudding Pals podcast, where the proof is in the pudding, and this pudding is thick.
Hi, pals.
Hi.
Extra thick this week.
Today it's gonna get real thick.
It's really thick. Today we have Alexxa, Staci, myself, Danielle, Jordyn, Deanna, Ashley, and obviously Petey's here today. And
Birthday
Petey's
boy.
11.
Happy birthday, Petey.
Happy birthday, Petey.
Wow.
Yes,
To get front and
yes,
center.
right. Come here, Pete. Right here.
Say hi to everyone.
Right, front and center, cutie. All right, so before we get to our guest, I wanted to read something that I saw. I want to know what you guys thought. So, couples who post each other on social media are 3 times more likely to break up within 2 years.
Oh, I agree.
I kind of agree.
agree, too.
I
Because I feel like
what
so
does that mean? What does that mean? Especially before you're married.
Like,
Like, if you're trying to post that you're perfect.
Agree.
Yeah, you're perfect.
You're so in love. I love my wife. I love my
think the
girlfriend.
people that overpost happy this, I love you so much, they're the most unhappy.
There's
Yeah.
an
because
underlying
they have to prove something.
100%. 100%. And if I think back to all my friends who are no longer together in marriages or people I know from life, it really is like those husband and wives who were like, we're on vacation together, we're on a boat, we're making out, and because it's a felt forced sense of reality.
I probably posted making out.
My husband's never posted me like
I was
maybe when
going
we
to
did
say,
the day we
my
got
husband
married. That's
doesn't
it.
use social media.
So you're
and I
gonna
think
last
he loves
forever.
you.
I'm be there
my
forever.
husband posts me,
Yeah.
And
and
he
I
always
just get
compliments you. It's so
pissed off
sweet.
because he posts the ugliest fucking pictures. So please keep me off. I am
But he
good. I know you
compliments
love me.
Yeah.
It's like,
Okay,
so
but
sweet,
it's
like,
not
my
like-
wife, the queen.
Yeah.
It's not obnoxious. It's
Yeah, it's
cute.
not
No,
obnoxious.
it's
being
I
genuine.
think if you're
Yeah.
dating, it's a huge red flag.
If you're
especially
boyfriend and girlfriend,
I
it
agree.
is the biggest
Yeah, I
red
think it's weird.
flag.
I agree.
100%.
I agree.
Also, like Alexxa, your pictures are like one eye open.
Or
Like,
what about the one time I went to Stagecoach or Coachella actually, and I had 8 Band-Aids on my toes, and he doesn't even crop my fucking feet out. I'm like, how rude.
I don't think they know. Yeah, Mark would
he
know
doesn't
how.
see your flaws. That's what Kevin says. I don't see your flaws.
Is that
But
what they
you think
say?
he's
I
lying?
don't believe that.
I know he's lying.
Yeah,
There's no
he's
fucking
lying.
way. The Band-Aid toes, come on. Come on.
I would be like, well, I see all your
see
flaws.
that.
I see all your flaws.
Okay,
That's what I say to Scott.
so we think this is
Bullshit.
Bullshit.
No,
it's
it's
true.
True. 100% true.
I'm not
Guys, don't
100%
listen.
agree.
100%
No,
true.
I think
100%
that's-
true.
Like, some people want to post that they're perfect, but you also could just post fun pictures with your...
well,
but
that's
that's
different. I
But
think like
like-
me posting like Kevin trying to put out a fire that he started in his
Yeah.
backyard is funny, but like I'm also not posting 100 pictures of me like cuddling up to
Yeah.
him and being
Well,
like,
who took a picture cuddling up? Come on.
Mine's
A lot.
A lot of
Mine's
people.
once a year on our anniversary.
A lot of
I just
people.
posted it.
A lot of people.
Once a year.
yeah, happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
All right, well, let's get into our guest today because this
got a
is someone
story.
who Jordyn found on Instagram
found her.
and now we're all hooked.
We're all hooked. And I told you, the minute I found her, I sent it to Danielle and I was like, we got to get her on the show.
Yeah.
This story is unlike something.
This pudding
This
is thick.
pudding is
It's a lifetime film waiting to happen.
Today, we're joined by the incredible Amber Rae. She's an author, an artist, and a speaker whose new book, Lovable, is out now. And let me tell you, it's going to spark some serious conversations, girls. Amber's work is all about self-worth, emotions, and finding the courage to live a life that feels true to you. Believe me, no one can wait to hear her story. This is so good. Should we bring her in?
Yes,
Let's do
I
it.
can't wait.
Welcome to the Pudding Pals podcast.
Amber, welcome to the Pudding Pals podcast. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Today on the couch, we have Ashley,
Hi.
Deanna, Jordyn, myself, Danielle, Petey, the dog. It's Petey's birthday today.
Happy birthday.
Staci and Alexxa.
Amber, we're so excited to have you here because this really isn't a story you hear every day. But I am sure there are so many women out there that can relate to it, in some way, shape, or form. But a lot choose to just stay in their marriage for whatever reason, maybe because of kids or, whatever. We really want to know, how did this story, unfold and what was it like telling your husband at the time?
Yeah, so 4 years ago while married, I met the person I knew I was meant to spend my life with. And it was this kind of instant knowing of, oh, this is what connection feels like. I feel like he's my person. Is he the future or the father of my future children? Like, it was just this like deep instant knowing, which was very quickly followed up with the voice in my head that was like, you're insane, you're married, what are you gonna blow up your life for a stranger, like people are gonna shame you, you like it was that, are you nuts? But the truth is that meeting him was this wake-up call, because I realized that I wasn't being honest with myself about the marriage that I was in. And I had been with someone for 9 years who was my friend, but never my romantic partner. We were in a sexless relationship. And, we were trying like therapy and self-help books and workshops and all the things to try and create that intimacy and closeness, but it just wasn't there. And it wasn't really there from the beginning. But because we were such good friends and he was a good guy, it almost made it harder, because I thought, oh, I can just figure this out. And I want to make this work. So that was kind of how everything started. So, the night I meet this person, I had just a bit of context. My husband and I were in New York for a decade. We left during the pandemic and moved to Todos Santos, Mexico, and we were building this land project. And this wasn't conscious for me at the time, but I thought, well, if I can't, get closest with my husband in our marriage, maybe if I make him my business partner, then finally we'll like get that sense of connection. Spoiler alert, only made things worse.
Yes.
But so here we were in Mexico, and potential investors were coming by, and they had a friend tag along, and it was that friend who I had that really special connection with. And they were supposed to be there for an hour, and 6 hours later, him and I just kind of like went into this bubble of like connecting and talking and realizing just, how special the connection was. And again, it wasn't like, oh, I like want this guy and I'm going to now like blow up my marriage. It was just like, wow, this being that I feel this like extraordinary connection with, and I just need to be close to him. My husband was there the entire time. And he was talking business with the other people.
He was there during that time.
He was there for the whole thing.
So did he notice?
Yeah. So then they like go to leave that night, and I turned to my then husband. I said to him, "I just met a soulmate."
Wow.
What did he
Okay,
say?
yeah.
What
What
did
did
he
you
say?
say?
What was his response?
Oh God.
And he said, "I saw, and that was beautiful to witness."
It was beautiful to witness.
Yeah, and that was beautiful to witness.
He's very mature.
Okay, wait, I have a question as to how you and your ex first got together and like what your thought process was then, because obviously ideally everyone goes into a marriage thinking like, this is it, I've met my soulmate, we're getting married. Did you have any red flags then that you were just kind of like, I'm gonna ignore because on paper, he seems like he's checking off all the boxes?
Maybe in like how old too? Because
Yeah, I was 26 when we met, and he proposed in 6 months. And so I think there were definitely red flags. One being that like the sexual chemistry wasn't really there. But because he, proposed so quickly, and because I was 26 and I was also coming out of a series of relationships with like very emotionally avoidant men who I like felt this extraordinary connection with, but who I also felt very unsafe with. And so because he felt safe, I was like, oh, we'll figure out the intimacy piece. Yeah, like, sex isn't really a thing here, but like I'm sure we can like in time make that work. And so I was doing a lot of convincing with myself of like, we'll figure it out, we'll make this work, because, part of me, like, he's my friend, and maybe, my grandmother always said like, marry your best friend. And, so I was like, he's my best friend, maybe that's enough. It's not enough in marriage. So yeah, I definitely had doubts early on, but I like pushed them down and ignored them because I wanted it to be right.
And throughout that 9 years, did you have that kind of underlying thought of this just doesn't feel right?
Right, like I want more, or you didn't feel that?
Or did you just kind of push it aside?
I was pushing it. I definitely wanted more. I definitely wanted more intimacy, more connection. I like, without going into like, I don't want to make this about, here are all the things about my ex I didn't like, that he, all the ways I didn't feel like he was showing up. But like, yeah, I think my needs were not being met romantically, but I almost like didn't know any better. I didn't really have any like healthy models of love growing up. My dad passed when I was young. My stepdad was like, ended up not being a very good person. And so, I thought like the fact that he was my friend was kind of like, maybe I should just be grateful for that.
Is that why you didn't have children together? Did you hesitate during those 9 years? I know you have kids now. So did you want to have children at that point?
Honestly, I was so career focused, and I was never really the person that was like, I need to be a mother. And that was another reason why I think we stayed so long, is that it was the container of our relationship. I became an author. I started speaking. I like really blossomed creatively into my like creative voice and power. And so in a lot of ways, it was like that was comfortable, and I don't want to blow that up. And I think women do this all the time. I can't tell you how many women are on my DMs like, I want to leave. I've been intimate 4 times with my husband of 18 years, or I've known he's not my person when we were walking down the aisle 12 years later. I had a book event in actually Summerland, Godmothers. I don't know if you know that bookstore. And there's this, 80-year-old woman who said, I realized I have one life to live, and I didn't live it fully because I stayed. And like, I knew so long ago. And so it's like all of these like stories of women overstaying, like we all have our reasons. And I think when we want something to work, and we're scared to listen to our intuition because what that will require us to do, we become so convincing with ourselves, no matter the circumstances, whether we're not having sex or they're our best friend, or, maybe it is toxic or unhealthy, or, whatever the reason is, women, particularly if we have a tendency to like please or harmonize or not want to disappoint everyone, we overstay.
Amber, in the beginning of your book, I started listening to it and I love it. But in the beginning of the book, you talk about like that you never felt you were good enough. So when you met John, or when you walked in, did you like instantly feel like, wow, I could be loved like this way?
Yeah. What I think is interesting is that in the 9 years of being in a relationship with someone where I felt like I spent my whole life looking to the other person to like prove to me that I'm worthy and enough. And if I could convince them to love me, then I would be enough. And like in the relationship with my best friend, because in some ways it was safe and comfortable, I like finally learned how to love myself. And so I think when I met John, I was in a place of like knowing how to love and honor myself. And so I think that's why I was even ready to meet someone like him. Because had I met him when I was 26 years old, I would have been a hot mess. Like I was not ready for that. I was not ready to meet my person. I had some like work to do on myself. And so I feel like the loving piece was a journey I was on, and meeting John, I was finding like, I don't need him to tell me that I'm lovable. I'm actually like learning that I am.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I have a question. What kind of advice would you either give yourself or anyone that's in your shoes that knows like, hey, I have a gut feeling, like maybe I should listen to my intuition? What kind of advice would you give to like follow that? Because obviously once you followed that, you really found your happy ever after.
Yeah, I would say don't delay the inevitable. And when you make the courageous choice, you align each person to the right thing. And it's so hard and scary, but I think telling the truth is the thing we must do. And so, my journey was literally, again, that night, I just met a soulmate. At this point, I wasn't thinking I was leaving my marriage. But 2 weeks later, when I was like, oh, I really have to leave my marriage and I'm actually falling for this guy, this is more serious than I anticipated, before I said anything to John, I went and told my husband. And I told him I'm falling in love with him. And like, I'm so sorry and I didn't mean to hurt you. But I think like, the truth will set us free, and the truth can be the hardest thing, but I also think it's the kindest thing. And so I think if we trust that by voicing our truth, particularly if we've been pushing it down out of fear of disappointing or upsetting people, like we need to courageously express our voice and trust that that will take us where we need to go.
So how did you feel when you said to him 2 weeks later, I'm in love with someone else? Did you feel scared? Did you feel relieved? Like what was that feeling?
Guilt?
Yeah.
I mean, I felt terrified. I felt awful. I felt like a bad girl. I was like, you're so I was shaming myself that I would meet someone while married, because that's such a, morally horrible thing to do. I was very much judging myself. And I also, felt relief too, because it was both. It was like, oh, I don't want to hurt my friend, because that's, I care about this person so much. But also like, wait, I've been hurting myself for so long. I like am so afraid of disappointing him, but I've forgotten that the cost of not disappointing him is disappointing me.
Right, and you have to be the most important person for yourself.
What was his reaction in that moment?
Yeah, I want to know that.
That's what I was going to ask.
He said, I'm happy for you, but if the roles were reversed, you would not be okay with this. And just because you have sexual chemistry with someone doesn't mean you can build a life with them, is what he said.
It was a mature response, I think. I mean, like, there's a lot worse responses that guy could give.
There's definitely a lot worse responses. I want to know what happened between those 2 weeks in between. It might be in your book, so excuse me if it is, but what happened from those 2 weeks of you talking to your then husband and saying, hey, I've met my soulmate, or I've met a soulmate, then the 2 weeks fast forwarding to, okay, maybe now I want to start a life with this person. What was the in-between? And how'd you get there?
And it wasn't 2 weeks. It was more like 4 weeks, but still. I mean, so because the night I met John, I was like, wow, okay, I just met my person, but I can't have him because I'm married, maybe in another life. I thought, well, I can make him my creative partner in this project. My husband is my business partner in the like business side of things. He's an artist. I'll make him my creative partner.
Who says you can't have your cake and eat it too?
I know. I really put myself in a tricky situation. And so him and I began like this collaborative process, because my role in the project was the design, the architecture, basically building it out aesthetically, and him being an artist and designer. I was like, wow, you're the perfect person. And I truly believed like, okay, maybe life is presenting him in my life because like he's not meant to be my husband, but like we're actually have really great creative chemistry. was my convincing initially.
So maybe I'm TMI, but were you sexually active with him?
No, six weeks after meeting John, I closed my marriage. I packed my belongings. I moved to LA. John picked me up at the airport at LAX with all of my things. We committed our lives to each other, and we had never even kissed.
Wow.
Wait, so John obviously felt the same way.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah, John felt the same way. That's kind of like early on. I went to him and I was like, okay.
Did he encourage you to leave? Like, leave him, be with me. I'm in love with you.
No, not at all. Early on, I said to him, I was like, am I crazy? Because I thought maybe this is just me experiencing this. He might not feel the same way. And I said to him, I had this like really crazy experience meeting you where it felt like I had known you. It was kind of this feeling of recognition. And he was like, yeah, I had the same feeling, like recognition at first sight when meeting you. He's like, but I thought, he was honest. He's like, I'll be honest. I went to my like friend that night and I was like, why is the universe showing me who my person is, but who isn't available to me? And he's like, and I felt grief there and sadness, of like, I really feel like she's who I'm meant to spend my life with. But he said he felt like the lesson was around like love without possession. And that like I was showing him the kind of woman that he would be interested in. And so it was like more, he didn't think we would end up together. And so when I told him when we were going into this design process and partnership process together, he was like, we're going to have to let that part of ourselves die if we're going to do this together. And so like our intention, like that was, I was like, okay, so we had the same feelings, maybe this is, but then it was like, oh no. And then I think he also like initially thought I was in a really happy marriage. And I think when he started to realize like, wait, like this is not at all what it seems. And like, he never said you should leave, but I think like his presence, just like the contrast of how I felt with John versus how I felt with my husband. At one point, my husband said to me, like my then husband, like, well, what if we opened our marriage and like you brought what you had with John to our marriage? And I was like, well, if I opened our marriage and I appropriately labeled these relationships, you would be my best friend and he would be my partner. So like, it was all this kind of like clarifying process. And then like my then husband like ended up having this interaction with this woman where he felt like he met his job. Like it was
That's good.
That was what I was going to say. After 6 weeks, was he devastated, or he had already found his person?
No, he like, because we were so transparent about it, like once I knew I was falling for John and I told him, the next day he like tracked John down at a coffee shop and was like, are you falling in love with my wife? And John was like, didn't see this coming, but yes, I am falling in love with your wife. And he was like, but she's my wife. And John was like, can I, and this is all in the book, but John was like, can I ask an honest question? And my ex was like, yeah. He's like, you keep calling her your wife, but how come you don't act like she is yours? Like,
Mic drop.
Wow.
Crazy.
Okay, John.
Wow.
okay. And it ended up like breaking the ice and like leading to a really honest conversation.
So no fist fight?
Yeah, so no fights.
And then we were like all like everything had been said. So it's like we were all like kind of exploring what it meant together. But and then he had like a swing of feeling like, there were emotions. It was a roller coaster, but like ultimately, he now found his person, remarried, all that, sometime like 2 years later, I think.
Are you guys still friends?
We're friendly. Like, he sent flowers when my son was born, but he was not thrilled about the book.
I have a question. Are you still business partners?
No. I like realized that I feel like the purpose of and I'm like glad we did everything that we did because that's how I ended up meeting John, but very quickly realized that wasn't for me, and my ex wanted to continue on with the land, so I sold my part and he carried it forward.
So what was the moment that you realized, okay, I should turn this story into a book and just kind of
Write your life out.
run with it?
And be so open.
Yeah.
As a memoirist who's been kind of like telling the truth about my life on the internet for a decade, as I was living the story, I was like, holy shit, this is the greatest. I was like, this is like, I can't believe this is my life. But I think ultimately, on the other side, and I was texting my literary agent throughout, and she was like, have you guys had an orgy yet? And I was like, this is not that kind of story. But I realized in the leaving and in all of the like pushback and shame that I got from close community friends, I had a great system of support as well. People that were kind of like, thank God, we've known that you were not fully met or you guys were not the right fit for each other. But I think I realized how many women find themselves trapped in lives that no longer fit and stay for the wrong reasons. Like I realized that like, I wasn't alone in my story. As I started to open up about it, so many people are coming to me like, this is my story too. And then I realized that what we're up against is the shamers and the society that says stay. And so I really wanted to destigmatize like women leaving, whether that's a relationship, a job, a version of themselves that they've outgrown. Like, don't stay because you don't want to disappoint people. Don't stay to make everyone else happy. Like, I want women to really honor their voice and their truth and their knowing to live from that place. So it was kind of a combination of like, whoa, this is a crazy life thing that is going to make a great story mixed with like, and I feel like people need to hear this story.
Yeah, no.
No, I think it's good.
Amber, I know people like are scared to leave, and that's like a reason why people don't leave is because they're scared of what's going to happen. Do you think that if you never met John, you would have left? Because knowing that you had someone to go to, you had a plan, and there was someone there that you felt such strong feelings
and safe.
towards.
You were going to feel safe.
Yeah. That like, do you think that if John never showed up at your door, like
You'd still be married?
You'd still be married, yeah.
I don't think I would be. I mean, who knows? I ask myself that question a lot. I think something would have had me leave. I don't know. John showing up certainly made it easier in some ways, that it was just like, all right, it was clarifying. But I also feel like I wasn't choosing John. I just like his presence had me realize I hadn't been choosing myself. And so my leaving was really like, because my mom said to me, because she was like, well, if it doesn't work out with John, are you going to go back to your ex? And I was like, absolutely not. Because I was kind of in this, like, once John and I knew we were falling for each other, I was like still in Mexico trying to figure out, should I move to LA? Is that crazy? Like, I don't know him that well. And my mom was like, okay, so if it doesn't work out with John, are you going to go back to your ex? And I was like, absolutely not. And she said, well, then pack your shit and go.
Your mom was really supportive of you. That's really amazing.
Yeah, she was super supportive.
Okay, tell me about, you say emotions and you call them messages. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I just, I think a lot of us grow up and we learn that emotions are good or bad, and we should feel the good ones and we should shut down and repress the bad ones. And I just believe that emotions are neutral and emotions are actually messengers. And so envy comes along and shows us a part of ourselves that we want to grow into, or anger comes along and shows us where a boundary has been crossed. Sadness comes along because there's some longing inside of us that is unmet and wants to be heard and seen. So I just think emotions, are these like really powerful tools and signposts. When we can learn to understand what they're trying to tell us, they can help guide us into our most honest and true lives.
I love that. Yeah.
You talk a lot about self-worth too with it. So how do you tell yourself you are enough?
Yeah, I think that like feeling enough, it comes down to the daily choices and practices. Like, what are the ways that I'm showing up for myself? When am I honoring my needs? When am I, instead of saying yes when I mean no, like saying yes because I really mean it, or saying no and learning how to say that kindly, or again, like not disappointing myself and having to sit with the discomfort of someone being disappointed in me. There are like all these ways where it's like, are my daily choices reflecting a story that I feel like I'm worthy and enough? And so that shows up in big and small ways. And it really, I think, comes down to the daily practices.
So when you chose John, was that one of the first times you felt self-worth for yourself? Like, I am worth this kind of love?
Around love, I like felt my mom was a badass entrepreneur and businesswoman. So like career was very easy for me. But again, because like love was never modeled, I was clueless. And so I think like it wasn't until I met John that I knew what real love was. And that I like actually felt, I had been in extraordinary relationships that were very unsafe. And now I had to experience a safe relationship that wasn't extraordinary. But with John, I realized that love could be both safe and extraordinary. And I could be with someone like who had been in therapy for 20 years and studied attachment theory and was like, like done the like work on himself, but also like who I felt this extraordinary desire and connection with. So I think it was, coming into that relationship, it was like, oh, I like finally found love that, lights me up, that I want to like build a life around.
Do you feel like your mom, like you said, she was really supportive in your decision, but you also say that you didn't have like love to look up to in your life? Do you feel like she was giving you that advice because she secretly wanted to tell herself that, like when she was younger, maybe projecting, instead of staying married to either your dad or your stepdad, maybe she was then projecting like, go find your happiness because I didn't. Maybe she was really career driven or whatever.
Yeah, I think my mom always was like, she's always like, go baby go, like and I think when it comes to, if there's any lesson she taught me, is to like listen to and trust that knowing. And I think she didn't know how to do that in love. And I don't know if she actually thought it was going to work out with John, because as soon as him and I had a little bit of conflict a few months later and I called her, she's like, I knew that.
Go back.
This is too good to be true.
Yeah. I was like, okay, I'm not calling you anymore for relationship advice. I'm going to go find a therapist, because also conflict is healthy. And so, I think she did, of course, want me to have that. And maybe a part of her, because she never found it. She still talks about like wanting to meet someone, but I don't see her, I want her to put herself out there. I don't think she's going on dates, but I would love her to. She's a beautiful woman, like inside and out.
So what do you tell people who slide into your DMs and people that you meet and that tell you, I'm in a funk, I'm not happy, my marriage is, stagnant? You don't tell them to just
Peace out.
peace out and leave, or go wait in Mexico and find someone like you. Like, is there advice that you would give them?
Yeah, it's so nuanced. So I don't give any advice in DMs, but I feel like what I do encourage is like to listen to your own knowing and to trust yourself. And so what that looks like for each person will be a little bit different. But it's like, I feel like we do know, and hearing the knowing isn't as scary as acting on the knowing. And so, things I encourage are to listen to that voice within, to speak the truth, even when it's scary. There's a therapist friend that I reference in the book. Her name's Deanna, and she talks about, whether if you're asking yourself this question of like, should I stay or should I go? It's helpful to look at your relationships with endings and beginnings. And are you the type of person who tends to overstay? And overstayers are people who tend to like be people please, not want to disappoint, like want everyone to be happy with them. And so they'll sacrifice their own needs for others. And so they'll stay longer than they should. Whereas like overleavers are people who like, as soon as it gets a little scary or too intimate, it's like, ooh, the walls go up. I don't know about this closeness. And so I'm going to run away. And so like, if you're an overleaver, actually the edge for you might be to like stay a little bit longer, have the hard conversation, lean into intimacy, even though it feels scary. And so I think it's like, people can look at which is my pattern. And is the opportunity here to like, if I overstay, to use my voice to honor myself, or if I overleave, to lean in and actually allow myself to experience intimacy and connection.
Did you lose any friends over this?
I did. Not any friends that I think were true friends because, but it was really hard for me in the beginning because as much as I had my like closest girlfriends that were like cheering me on and excited and like such an incredible system of support, there were people who I, thought I was close with that questioned my character and like called me the homewrecker and, had all kinds of thoughts and opinions, a narcissistic sociopath. I was like, what?
They're jealous they don't have a spark.
The courage to they have the courage
They're like
to
at
do
home
it.
wondering why they're married to that husband.
We know you want women to, listen to their inner voice. What other conversations do you hope Lovable sparks amongst people in general, not just women?
Yeah, a big theme of the book also is healing and this idea that we heal in all directions. And so, when I found myself on the other side of a 9-year sexless marriage, I was like, how the hell did I get here? Because I thought I was the kind of person who actually did listen to her intuition and honor herself. And it's because I knew how to do that in my career, but I didn't know how to do that in love. And so I think like I then had to look back to my past, what I learned about love, what the generations of women in my family line had done. I had like realized that I had pushed down a lot of like childhood trauma that I was afraid to look at, that was too painful to look at. And so like, as I did that healing work on myself, like I realized it was having a ripple effect. My grandma, for example, when I did leave and I went to visit my mom and grandma, my grandma was like, you can't tell anyone this story because they're going to judge you. And, my grandpa left my grandmother for another woman. So I think she was judging me. And then a year later, she called me and she said, you know what, Amber, I'm so glad you left and I'm so proud of you. And you had me realize that I would have left your grandfather, but I didn't have the emotional strength or the financial resources to do so. I knew he was having affairs and up to no good and I was unhappy, but instead I was the victim when he left, even though I wanted to be the one who left too. So like it ended up leading to these very powerful conversations. And I realized that like when we do our healing work, it heals in all directions. It helps the family line that we've come into. And I think it sets a new path for the next generation. Like my son is now born into real love. Like I feel like he's a soulmate baby. Aww. And he like gets to see what real love looks like.
Yeah. Tell our listeners a little bit about your happily ever after. You have kids, you got married. How long after meeting? How did that all go?
We, and it was like happily ever after, but it was like what I realized very quickly, because here I had, John and I commit our lives to each other and we haven't yet touched. I'm coming out of a 9-year sexless marriage. I'm disconnected from my sexuality. John was not disconnected from his sexuality. Very, very comfortable and in touch with that part of himself. And I was terrified. And so all of my insecurities, abandonment anxieties, is my body good enough? Like stalking his exes on Instagram, like all these like parts of me that I was like, who the hell is this person? I couldn't even recognize myself at first, came to the surface. And I realized I also chose safe relationships because I didn't want to have to touch those abandonment anxieties of losing my dad as a little girl. And like the desire and longing I had to have around a father figure was something I didn't want to experience in adulthood. So I chose relationships where I wouldn't feel that. And now finally I'm with someone who I'm like, what if I'm not good in bed, will he leave me? So it was like, I just say that it's a happily ever after now, but first it was like, oh shit.
a bumpy start.
I was like, now the real work begins. And then but thankfully he was a beautiful space. And like, you know, I would say, you know, how do you interact with women in the world? Like all this stuff came up that wasn't because of him. It was me projecting my past onto him. And he just like showed me and proved to me again and again that like he's someone who stays and he's a loyal person and he loves me no matter what and all of that, which I guess is part of the happily ever after. And that led us, we got married, a year and a half after we were together. It's been 4.5 years now. And yeah, we have a 10-month-old son.
Congratulations.
Congrats. So wouldn't you say now that you're with your soulmate, are you happy? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very happy. Yeah, I feel like I'm overflowing with just, you know, it's a sense of, and it's more than happy. It's I feel at peace. And I feel at peace because I am, you know, even though, yes, I've chosen this person, I've chosen to honor myself.
I think that's a really good message for a lot of women, that like you get to feel at peace by honoring yourself. Yeah. You have to be first.
So Amber, where can our listeners follow you and get your book?
Well, Lovable is available everywhere books are sold, and you can get, and yes, and it's on Audible. People love listening to it. I do read the book. And you can, amberrae.com is my website that has all the links, and then Hey Amber Rae is my Instagram.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Amber. You're so inspiring.
I love it.
And we loved having you here, and I hope we get to continue to follow your journey.
Thank you. You all were so fun.
We'll talk soon. Thank you,
Bye,
Amber.
Take care.
I loved her. I feel like I really hope that somebody listening today that worries that they don't have that full happiness and self-worth and confidence in their relationship gets inspired.
It's a big message in listening to your gut. And, you know, life is short, one life to live, and time is all we have. That's, you know.
You should be lovable.
Yeah. We should be lovable.
Yeah,
we should be lovable.
Exactly. We're all lovable. Like, I get annoyed with my husband, but I do feel very at peace and content with
feeling.
Exactly.
If you're full at peace, you wake up happy.
Content. Me too. Yeah, I agree with you. Where you are and who you are.
Safe. Safe and sexified.
I'm working on the sexified, but you're sexified.
Well, we're safe.
I'm real safe.
All right, well, let's play our game.
Let's do it.
All right, 5 fingers up. Never have I ever pretended to like a gift he gave me.
I'm too honest. In the beginning of
like a cow. Can you stop?
Never have I got mad at him for chewing.
Oh, me.
Thank you, Sleep Number. You solved all my
Breathing. Like in bed. Never have I ever fought with my husband and then forgot what we were actually fighting about.
Oh, duh.
It becomes something
Drinks. Like, wait, why am I mad? I forgot.
Like it's been an hour fighting and forgot what we're fighting about. Never have I ever lied to my husband about what I did in a day.
Oh, me all the time. Those
I
lunches.
mean, the first time I got both.
The lunches?
The lunches?
The lunch lady. The lunch lady. The lady who
I'm
lunches.
volunteering.
I was in the classroom for 6 hours.
I had a Venmo Annie.
I never hid a bill from my husband.
Whoa.
Never have I ever thought about breaking up but didn't say it.
I've never thought about breaking up
With like a boyfriend.
With your husband or
my
with your
boyfriend or
boyfriend?
husband?
I never said it to your husband.
I said your husband or your boyfriend?
Yeah, to your husband or your boyfriend?
Either?
Oh, to a boyfriend? Me?
If it's a husband, we still have. We have another therapist coming.
Oh, Jordyn.
Okay, Deanna's out.
Okay, yeah,
Deanna's out.
Dare to
Deanna,
dip.
dare to dip or spill the pudding?
Spill the pudding, Deanna.
Yeah,
Spill the
Spill the
pudding.
pudding.
Spill the pudding.
Okay, what's the worst lie you've told your kids that they still believe?
Oh, that's a good one.
Oy, oy, oy. That they still believe?
My kids believe that I have eyes in the back of my head.
Oh,
That's a great one.
I told them, Mom, you can see everything, even if I'm not looking.
My kids think I have cameras at school.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I see what you did.
The camera.
God, my boys are like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
What do they still believe? Well, they still believe in Santa. Which they're Jewish.
Okay.
And they're Jewish.
All right. Well, I like it.
He goes to Grammys. He goes to Grammys.
Oh, I like it.
Cute.
So cute.
Aw, you guys, I love this episode.
So did I.
So did I. Really
Thank you
inspiring.
again to Amber, and for anyone that has a friend that might really relate to this episode, please share, like, and subscribe, and we will see you next time on the Pudding Pals podcast.
Yes.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.